Heute gibt's eine englische Episode, deswegen springe ich direkt rüber, because today I have a guest and he's from Australia and that's why this episode is gonna be in English. I've seen him performing live at the Men from Snowy River Festival in Corryong. If you've never heard of it, that's fine, but that's a very important event in Australia for all the horse lovers, let's call it that way. And he is not only one of the most famous Australian stockman horse trainers, but also a bush poet and entertainer. And he has a very special way in performing with the horses, and he knows that trust is more important than control, and still he can work like 6, 7, 8 horses at the same time in an arena. And even though you might be not a horse person, it's very interesting to listen to him to get a feeling how tough the life of a horseman or a horse trainer in Australia is, how tough it is to be present in 3 countries at the same time, how to keep a farm running even though you're known worldwide, and also what are the struggles that everybody knows, kind of, things that might keep you up at night when it comes to private stuff, to family stuff, to paying the bills and everything. So this episode went it went deeper than I expected it to be, and this is amazing, and I'm really grateful that Guy McLean took the time, came online here. We could talk about all the things that make him happy, that make him sad, that cost him energy, and that gives him energy. And I'm really grateful that he shared his story in order to help you, no matter if you're a horse person or not, how to deal with stress and how to find your personal battery where you can recharge. And so I really hope that you like the episode. Maybe you feel it that I was a little bit nervous because he's really like a very famous person, and I was really excited that I not only could watch him live performing at that event, but also now having here the time speaking one-on-one with him and really could ask my questions. So maybe sometimes you feel it a little bit that I was a little bit nervous, but still I hope you can simply enjoy it, and I hope you can take as much out of it as I can. So have fun with Guy McLean. I put everything else you need to know in the show notes, and now let's dive in. So today is a very special day because, as you can see, I'm not the only one here. I have a guest today on my podcast show, and I'm very excited to have you on here. Hi, Guy McLean.
G'day, Patricia. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, going great. Having a wonderful day. A bit of rain here, which is always nice when you're a farmer with horses.
That is good. That is really good. So today we want to talk a little bit about how you handle stress, because I of course only know it from the outside, but I see a lot of stuff that you're doing, and I'm wondering, like, how do you handle all of that? So maybe let's start with a little bit of an introduction. I remember that you were born close to Melbourne, right? So more in the
That's right.
suburb city type, but then you moved up to Queensland, like more in the countryside, and you grew up with 4 older brothers, right?
5 brothers and then a little sister 5 years after me, so 6 kids.
Okay, well, that must have been tough already.
Yeah, it was. I felt a little bit lost as the youngest of the 5 boys. I always felt a little small and insignificant compared to my brothers, but never when I rode. When I rode, I felt as good as anybody. I feel like I was equal to the king. So I just, the horses have been an incredible part of me, and the way I deal with stress is I spend time with my horses. No matter what's going on in my life, when I'm around them, they pull me into now. They pull me into, I have to give them my attention and everything that I am in the moment. Whereas when I come in afterwards, it is hard for me to turn my mind off. But when I'm riding, my mind is totally with them, and it's an absolute escape for me.
Yeah, so currently when we're recording, it's actually 5 p.m. 5 p.m. your time. So did I interrupt your horsework right now, or was it meant to be a break anyway?
No, it was funny. I knew that I had to do this. I knew this was coming today, and then I worked on the horses, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I should work my last 2 horses that I'm getting ready for a show on the weekend. And I thought, no, I don't need to work them. I'll give them a rest and I'll work them tomorrow. And then I come in and thought, I'm glad I did, because I'd forgotten all about it. But as soon as I walked in the house, I remembered, so it worked out perfect.
Lucky me. That's amazing. So Before we dive deeper, I would love to have a little rapid fire round. I'm not sure or have you heard of it, like just questions and you can decide either this or that?
Yeah,
Are you open for that? Yep.
I'm more than happy for that. Yep.
So, cool. What do you prefer, sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Oh, that's Australian. Window or aisle seat?
Definitely window.
Great. What do you think is more important, trust or control?
Absolute trust.
And what's the better Australian snack, Vegemite bread or Tim Tams?
My wife would say Vegemite, I say Tim Tams.
Okay, I really appreciate that. I would also go with the Tim Tams, but I'm not a natural, of course. And when I was going through the questions, I was so tempted to say Eastern Brown or Red Belly Black, but I think you can handle all of those.
We had quite a few red belly blacks at home, and I've ridden over the top of them, and we had quite a few. Lost a couple of good dogs to red belly blacks, so I respect them greatly.
Oh, really? Okay, wow. But what I realized from all the people in Australia, like my brother-in-law is Australian, right? My sister lives there now, that you know how to handle nature. Like you know how to live with nature, how to accept every being, and that is really great. So this is something I really appreciate. What is, and this is my final question for that, what is an Australian habit or skill that you, if you had the chance, everybody in the world should have?
I'm not too sure. I know that it was put into our family though that do what you say you're going to do, and not that all Australians do that, but I've always lived by the motto: if you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it.
That's very nice. That's very, very good. So, can you give us a little bit of an insight, Guy? You're a horseman, of course. You're very famous. You have horses all around the world. You're also a poet, which is very interesting. So, give us a little bit, maybe first a little bit of insight into your life, how you became who you are now, and how does a day today in your day look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I say, as you started off, we started off in the city, and it all started off from a dream of my dear mum. So when I do my Stockman show at the homestead now, which belongs to the family now that my dad's passed away, I say that our place started off as a dream. My mum had a dream as a little girl growing up in the inner city streets of Melbourne. She had a dream of marrying the man of her dreams and having 6 kids and growing them up in the Queensland bush. And so she was a nurse at the time. My father was a fine footballer, an Australian rules footballer, and he ran the service station of my father's and of my grandfather, I should say. And then so mum said, that's what we want to do. And dad said, happy wife, happy life, and followed her to Queensland. They bought 1,600 acres back in 1976. So 50 years ago, we've owned the property for 50 years now. And we paid $88,000 for 16,000 acres and 1,600 acres, I should say, sorry. And we grew up on that. And so we were called greenhorns when we first went there. And a greenhorn is basically someone who knows nothing about the country, really shouldn't be there, but turns up anyway. And the people that used to call us greenhorns, I've trained horses for them. My brother has cleared land for them, built fence for them. So they actually reach out to us now to do the skills that they thought we would never learn. So we're what you would call first generation Australian stockmen. And I used to sometimes wonder, I feel a little bit bad saying this now. When I was a kid, I wished I was fourth and fifth generation. So I wish that my dad was a stockman and my grandfather was a stockman and so on. And I know a lot of good fellas that have that, but the ones that are born into a third and fourth generation, they just follow tradition. Where there was no tradition in our family. I asked my dad when I was a little boy, because I've always had an affinity with horses from the first time I've been around them at 16 months of age. I said, Dad, I want to be a horseman. He said, why, son? Why don't you like money? Because it's a hard life. Horses are very expensive. And I said, well, I just love them, Dad, and I want to be a world-renowned horseman. And he said, well, I don't know, son. He said, but maybe he said, all I want from me, and this was when I was a young boy, all I want from you is that you don't hurt yourself, you don't hurt your horses, and you have a great time. And I've based my whole life around that. I've done several things in the horse industry. I took rides for my dad at the homestead for 9 years, and I would have people come and backpackers and lots of people from all over the world would come. And the ones that were nice to my horses and respectful to me, I was wonderful too. I loved them. I'd always give them the very best ride I could. And if someone called dear old Mary fat or called hombre skinny or said that horses were dumb, I wasn't very nice to them. I've always felt very protective of my horses. And my dad would be pulling me into the office once a week saying, son, these people really loved you. And the next week he'd be saying, son, these people didn't like you at all. And I said, well, they were picking on my horses, Dad. So I tried to be a horseman in that way. And then you can be a horseman as a trainer. And as a trainer, you you bring in people's horses that don't know anything of our world. They know all about their world, but know nothing about being educated. And we spend 4 to 6 weeks with them. We've got to say goodbye to them. And through COVID, I was working a lot of horses just to keep our business running. And I would cry every time they would go home. I would get so emotionally attached to them. And then I still, to this day, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder where they are and what their life is like. So becoming an entertainer is the only way that I get paid to keep my horses. So I go and do a show this weekend, and that show, the money I make there will feed my horses for 3 or 4 weeks. And so every time I perform, I'm taking care of my kids. And when you saw me at the Man for Snow River Festival, that is me in my sweet spot. I was working through 3 or 4 up to 5 demonstrations a day there. By the end of the day, I was so tired, I'd go into the caravan and fall straight to sleep. And that's where my joy is, because when we're here and I'm just taking care of the property and resting my horses, that's when the worries come in. But when I'm busy sharing my horses with the world and showcasing what a life dedicated to something that you believe in and encapsulates your whole heart, that's where my joy is. And so becoming an entertainer was what I had to do, because then I get paid to keep my horses. And there's a magnificent horse of mine called Nugget. I retired him at 10 because he had early onset of arthritis, and he's 34 now. And I put up videos of him, and the videos of him go viral. People still love him and remember him. And I'm so very blessed that as an entertainer that I got to keep him not only in his performance years, but I get to keep him right up to the very end. If he lives another 10 years, the horses that I have now are paying for his care and well-being. And my life is just a life dedicated to horses. On my first video, I said, my name is Guy McLean, and my life is dedicated to horses and everything about them. I love them, I live them, and I'd just be nothing without them.
That's amazing. And how does, I mean, I'm pretty sure you won't have any typical day that not every day is the same, right? That's impossible with you doing the shows and having all the horse and everything. But if there'd be any kind of everyday life, what does it look like?
I'll tell you what today was like. So I got a ding on my phone at about 5:30 this morning, and a lovely next door neighbour said, Guy, your top wire in your paddock next to the road is broken. So I wrote back to them and said, thank you, I'll fix that. So I went out on the motorbike and I fixed the top wire of my boundary fence. And then I came in and I fed all the horses, as all good horse people do. You take care of your animals first. And then I came in and had a coffee and made a coffee for my wife. And then I came in and made some goods. So I make some halters and some reins. I was finishing up some halters that I'm going to be taking to a show. And I made 4 sets of long reins, because when I do my demonstrations, people want to know, they want to know how I do it, but then they want to know the gear that I use. So I made up some training gear, and then I went out and cleaned some paddocks. I got a paddock blade, so I go and drag that across the manure in the paddocks to clean that up. And then I've got my team of 6 that I'm taking with me. I work with them all today, but I also work 2 new horses are coming up. I gave the 6th ride to that beautiful little mare that I started at Snowy River. I gave her a 6th ride today, so she's had about 6 weeks off, and I give her another ride. And I taught a full sister to the 3 of my champions. I've taught her to lay down. She's 5 or 6 days into her finished lay down, so she's laying down now just like one of my finished horses. And then working with the son of Nugget, who I'm going to be doing a demonstration with on Friday. So as I go on, there's things that I have to do through the day, but as long as the horses are taken care of, I can just go out and do what needs to be done. And a lot of people think when they see me at shows that it's the for 5-6 days a week that makes my horses like they are. It's reading them, knowing what they need. There's horses that needed me to work them today and horses that needed me to rest them, and I love that. And the more I listen to them and the more I feel for what they need, the better they go for me.
So you said you see your horse and you know instantly if they need a rest or if they're ready to whatever, like work and stuff. How do you feel for yourself?
Yeah, when you work with them, you get an idea. Like, they're all very different. So that in the team of 6, 2 of them are rearing and striking at each other in the pasture and look like they need a bit of work. So I put the time into them, and then I've got another gelding that I know that he's better if I leave him fresh. But that's the longer I spend with them, the more that I know about that. But not just by looking at them, but by being around them long enough. If you're around someone long enough, you're not only seeing them on their best day, but on their worst days, and then you start to really see who they are.
Is it easier for you to see if a horse needs a rest, or if it's easier for you to realize that you yourself need a rest?
No, it's much easier for both Emily and I to take care of the horses better than we take care of ourselves. So through the COVID lockdowns, I was working 8 horses a week by myself. I'd have a young girl would come out and clean stalls for me, and I'd give her a lesson. A couple of times a week for that, and she's a dear friend of ours. But I would do everything. I would catch them and ride them and do everything with them. And when 8 went home, 8 would have to come in again. Because we've got business in 2 different countries, the bills are very big. So I'd have to work 5 horses a day just to cover my bills before I made $1. And so that would get hard, and it was getting to where I didn't have a day off for 2 years. And so I actually had an accident where I had a horse that had a rearing problem, and he reared up and fell over on top of me. And even though it was awful and it really hurt me and my legs swelled up, I had to have 3 days off because I couldn't physically leave the bed. And that's how tired I was and how tough it was, that I actually was grateful for that, because I had to rest. I had no other choice. Now, 3 days after, I was riding again, and I was back riding with a big bruise on my leg from my hip all the way down to my ankle. But I had to have 3 days off. And I said to Emily, as bad as this sounds, I'm grateful for it, because I wasn't going to allow myself to rest. It's something that my dad, if the sun was up, he was working, and my brothers and that are the same. So no, I'm much kinder to the horses than I am to myself, probably.
Wow. How do you recharge? Like, where do you get all this energy from?
From them, from the horses. When I do a big tour in America and I have my horses there, and you've gone across the country, and you can see them starting to get a little tired, they get a little bit road weary and that, and I rub them on their beautiful heads, and I feel pretty tired too, because it's been a big tough time. If we've done 4 or 5 shows in a row, we might have done 7 or 8 days traveling. And then I'll fly back to Australia, and my horses, who haven't seen me for 3 months, are just like little kids on candy. They're bouncing around and jumping up and down, and then I plug into that. Their energy becomes my energy. And then when I've worked these horses, if we've had a lot of work over here, I go over to America, and those horses are recharged. So I really do get my energy from them, which I'm very blessed for. And I say to Emily quite often, Emily's my darling wife, I say when we do a big show, like even Snowy River, which you saw us at, I love that show. My dream life would be to live up in the mountains and work cattle and train my horses all week, and then do that show every weekend. I just love that. That would be a glorious life, I think. And if I was in it, I'd probably want different, but I would just absolutely love to do that. At the end of a 4-day show like that, to Emily, I say, I'm really tired. I could do with a couple of days off. And she just giggles, and she knows that I'll be riding tomorrow, or I'll be doing something with him. Because what I do is it's not something I do, it's something that I am. I'm 51 this year, and I've had a few people, and I used to get a little annoyed with it, but they would say, when are you going to retire? And I couldn't understand it, because to me, I'd actually say back to them, I'm going to retire from horsemanship the day I retire from breathing. It's not something that I do as a job. It's something that I am, and I would be nothing without them. And my hips, I have a lot of arthritis in my hips, and I haven't had them fixed yet, because I can still ride really good. I have no problem when I ride, but I have trouble getting on and off. So my horses side pass to the fence, or they lay down, let me hop on them. And the reason I haven't got them done is because they reckon I'll have to go 3 months without riding. I don't want to go 3 months without riding.
3 months.
I just put up. That's what 3 months without being able to really ride. Like, you could sit on and have a little trail ride. Well, I don't do that. I gallop and stop and turn and chase horses, but I'm not in any pain. I've got hold of the pain, but just as you get older, your body gets a little creaky. But I just say to those people that I'm never retiring from this. I'll retire from this the day I retire from breathing.
Do you ever feel like really stressed out? Like, have you ever been like at the edge, like, oh my gosh, it might be too stressful right now?
Yeah, I have.
How? And what did you do?
Well, I don't talk about this a lot, but at times where I think it's important, I do. My first wife, when we first got together, Emily's my third wife. It's a hard life, what we do. It's a very selfish life, traveling down the road, being an entertainer and educator, and I missed a lot of dinners and missed a lot of different things because you're focused on the horses, and the horses don't wear a watch, so you have to work with them when you do. And Emily understands that. And I actually said to her when we got together, I said, I'm not great with relationships. I've had 2 breakdown marriages. I said, when I asked the other girls what they wanted from life, they said that they wanted to make my dreams come true, help me with my dreams and walk beside me, which is a beautiful thing to say. But then it got to a time where my dreams weren't theirs anymore, and then they couldn't be in it anymore. And I understand that. And I said, damn, I said, I don't mean to be rude. I said, but we're just starting this relationship. I said, the horses, I feel awful saying this, but the horses do come first, and these goals and dreams and desires I have come first. And Emily just laughed and said, that's how it's been my whole life. Mum said that to me when I was a little girl, the horses were always going to come first. So I said to her, what are your hopes and dreams? What would you like to do in the future? She said, I want to travel the world and be around horses. And I said, that I can give you. And we've been together 16 years. And even the days we may not like each other, we love our life and we love what we're doing. But with my first relationship, I was going to get married once. It was very strong for me. Like my grandparents, they were married once and were together for 65 years, and I looked up to them. When she left and took my little daughter away, I didn't know if I could go on. I don't know if I was clinically depressed because I didn't go. In Australia, you don't go and talk about it. You don't tell anyone. It's getting better now. Now we encourage people to talk about it. But I was so down and so upset and thinking in my head that my darling little daughter, there was a new man in her mum's life that she was calling daddy, which really hurt me. And I was at clinics and there was these fathers with their little kids, and every time they would call out daddy, I was doing these clinics with them, and every time they call out daddy, I would break down. And I was thinking that I had to end it. I was thinking the world doesn't need me. My family will be okay. My daughter will be okay. My friends will be all right. Just that must have been the depression, just saying that the best thing for me would be to not be here anymore. And then I thought about my horses. And my horses are wonderful, but they're wonderful for me and for what I do with them. My family they weren't going to perform with them. They'd have to sell them. So I got up every day for them. And every day that I didn't want to get up, every day I wanted to stay in the covers with the covers pulled over my head, I got up for them. So my horses saved my life. And so that was the very worst of it. And I've never felt that bad since. But we definitely have times where you go on that, like the jobs that we do are very important to us. If I was to do Snowy River every weekend, we'd be flying. We'd have money left over at the end of the year. But the job that I do this weekend will only pay my bills for 2 weeks. And then I have to have another job, because if I don't have another job, then I'm worried about who's going to feed the horses and who's going to do this and that. And Emily or I right now are in a little bit of a changeover in what we're doing. We've always gone and done our very best at performances, and then another show says, I saw you here and we want you to come to our show, and that's how we got our work. Whereas a lot of the entertainers now are really pushing very, very hard. They're out pushing themselves really hard to people, and so it's a little more difficult for someone like me who's not like that. I'm a real introvert. I go out and do my very best job, and if you love me, I'll do a job for you down the road. But if you're not, you've got to be in their face. So I feel very confident that what we're trying to plan now is I want to do my own shows and make my own destiny, and so almost drought-proof my business. And instead of waiting for the shows to call me, we start doing our own. So right now I'm in a very scary part of that, because you have to do everything. You have to become an event organizer and do all the other things. So there's a lot of stress with that right now for me and Emily. But I escape it from it. When I go and ride, I escape. Poor Emily can't. She's in here thinking about it, and she's trying to ring up these venues and that kind of stuff. So it's very, very hard for her. But for me, I just go out and I work with my horses for 2 hours. And for 2 hours, I'm taken out of this stress bubble and I'm put over here. And what I try to say to Emily, because she feels it really hard, and it's hard to hear from a loved one, but I try and say to her, she says, I can't do this. I'm not able to do this. This is too hard. It's not what we do. And I said, I remember you telling me things that you couldn't do. Emily helps me run business in 2 different countries, or 3 countries. We perform in Canada as well. Lots of things that we thought we could never do, Emily and I have achieved. So I think for your viewers, if you're having stress and times are tough, just remember the things that you've gone through. I only need to think back about the time with my little daughter. I never thought I'd get through that. I never thought that I'd be okay with not having my little daughter in the back seat of my car or in my house. The relationship I have with my daughter, I think, would be as good a relationship as anyone has with anyone in the world. And I never ever thought that I would have that, but I wouldn't change her for anything. She grew up away from me. I'd only speak to her on the phone. I'd speak to her on the phone every day, even if she didn't want me to. I'd ring her from all over the world. And now she's so grateful for that, and I wouldn't change that relationship. So I think if you're going through stress and that, just think back to the incredible things that you've done and how you did it. And that's why I love riding with horses. If I'm working my horse and I go, oh, I'm too tired to working today, he won't get better. But it's the effort I put in today with those young horses out there that will pay me back for tomorrow. The effort I put in tomorrow will pay me back in 3 months' time. And when I'm sitting here a year from now, I'll look back to the Guy McLean that worked those horses today and thank him for his effort. So I try and do that. I try and take steps forward every day. With my horses, it's very easy, but that's what we're trying to do with our business, so that hopefully 5 years from now, we'll look back to 2026 and say we're so grateful for the drought because it allowed us to drought proof our business to where now we're doing things that no one else in the world is doing. That's the goal and the plan. And you have to enjoy the journey as you go there, but you try to look forward all the time.
Thank you for sharing. Like, this was really deep, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. When you said now that you're starting to prepare your own events, organize your own events, will it be like in Queensland around Hervey Bay, or like anywhere in Australia, anywhere in US, Canada?
Yeah, right now it will be close to home. I don't know what your fuel's like over there, but it's so expensive to travel here right now in Australia. But the good money that we made at Snowy River, we nearly spent that just in fuel, traveling 2 vehicles back and forth from there. That the fuel costs are really huge. So what we're going to do is book little arenas
Yeah.
close to home that we can go in the morning, do our show, and be home the next day, kind of thing. And then I always find that with what I do, anything that I do in the past, people will hear about it and then they'll start to say, well, we want that. Can you bring it to our town? And the biggest problem is that I've traveled so much. So everyone goes, we'd love that. Come to Canada where they've seen me, or come to America, but you can't just fly over to do these kind of jobs. So we'll start off close to home and then we'll build from there. And we're still very open to do the other shows. There's shows across the world that we've done every year. There's an incredible show in America called Harrisburg Horse World Expo, and we've done that every year for 16 years, and we'll hope to continue to do that. But I definitely want to get to where we can take our own events to where people say, we loved you so much, we'd have you 3 times a year. And the other ones who say we could only have you every 4 years, well, then we can be in control of it. Whereas we have shows across the world where there's people saying, we want you every year, but the organisers won't get you every year because the organisers think they need to change it up. Whereas Horse World Expo, they're going to keep getting me till the audience says no, and the audience hasn't said no yet.
Okay, that's good. I'll be down in Australia again in December, so just let me know in case there's anything coming up, because I made it to Koryong. I'll be happy to go anywhere, so I'm really excited.
Wonderful. Well, the Man from Snow River Festival was huge, and we hope to be back there. They've already spoken to us about doing that again, which is in the same time. But around December holidays, my family has Susan River Homestead, which is it's something that my dad and my mum started 50 years ago. And they're still running it as a camping resort, and there's rooms there and horse rides, and I go out there and I do my stockman show through the holiday period. So if we're home, we'll be doing our stockman show there every day over the holidays.
Okay, that is amazing, because you're already on my short list. Like, I already have your website ready for me to book it once I'm down there again.
Wonderful. Well, we'd
And
love to have you. Thank you for your time.
yeah, that'd be great. So, and if you think I'm your biggest fan in Germany because I traveled all the way from Germany to Koryong to see you performing live at Man from Snowy River, I can tell you that my very good friend Melanie is even a bigger fan, and she begged me for you to ask you, is there any time soon maybe you might come to Europe?
I would love to go to Europe. When I used to do Equitana, Melbourne, and Equitana, Brisbane, we would have people from Equitana, Germany would come over, and they would say, would you be interested in coming? I said, I would love to come. I'd love to bring my horses over and perform, but they only wanted me to come over and do colt starting. They didn't want me to do my performances with my horses. And if they
Okay.
did, I would have to get them there. So I don't want to just go and just be without the horses. Like when I went to America, I had to make a big decision, and I had to empty out all my bank accounts to take the horses over there. It was quite expensive, and it's now 3 times as expensive to take horses. So if I could organise a tour over there, I
Yeah.
would love to, and take my horses around, but I don't want to go over there and just be a clinician or a colt starter, because I do what I do to have the relationship that I have with my horses. My wonderful horse I rode is Jim Craig. Someone asked me if I would sell him. She saw him at Snowy River Festival and said, would you sell him? I said, well, thank you for asking, but absolutely not. I owe that horse everything. And he's a horse of my dreams. So when my horses become part of my family, I look after them like Nugget. If Nugget lives 50 years, we'll be feeding him for 50 years. Like that, I owe that to them. So when I go, as I say, when I go and I perform with them, they pay their own rate and own fee. But I'd love to go to Europe, but I would have to have a pretty extensive tour to make it worthwhile. And I'm definitely open to that.
Yeah, I totally get it. And just in case you need any kind of help, feel free to reach out. It's sometimes easier if
Thank
you're
you.
like in the country, of course.
That's lovely of you.
What was really like interesting for me to understand is you have horses in Australia, you have horses in the US. How do you handle those like two sites?
we're being very blessed. It was a big leap of faith to go across to America, and when I say that my horses saved my life through that tough time, I reached for God pretty hard there too. I did reach for Him, and I see when I ride my horses, I feel closer to something bigger than us than I ever do anywhere else. So I really reached for that. And it was a leap of faith to go over there. Like we had $100,000 sitting on a house loan over here. I was sitting fairly pretty. I was going to have my property paid off fairly quickly. I thought I've got to go to America and I've got to see. I don't want to be 90-year-old on my veranda in my rocking chair going, I could have been world famous. So by the time we got to America ready to perform at the World Equestrian Games, we were down to $2,500. We didn't have enough money to get back to Texas. We were driving a trailer that belonged to someone else, a truck that belonged to someone else. And then the jobs we did there, we sold some DVDs and we made some wonderful connections. And Prefit Rodeo and Ranch Equipment has been sponsoring me ever since. My horses live there on the ranch. And so people say, how can you be away from your horses? If you love them so much, how can you be away from them? I say, I pray every day and I thank God for taking care of them. I thank Him for the people that look after them in America. And dear Nate Prefit, who's one of my dearest friends in the world, he goes, what do you want us to do with these horses, Guy? And I said, oh, mate, just if you can trim their feet when they need to, they have a farrier that comes in. And you don't need to brush them with that. Just leave them. Just let them be horses. They've got a big 300-acre paddock. They all live in them. And I'll ring him up every couple of months. I go, how are my horses going, Nate? He goes, Guy, when you left, they look like fancy show horses. They look like fat brood mares now. You're going to have to take all the burrs out of their mane and tail. So I get back there, and I give myself a week when I go back and perform, and I brush their mane and tail out, and I ride them for 3 or 4 days, and then we go to the biggest shows in the world. And because they live on a ranch, they're living out in the open, they're running around, they stay fairly fit. And the horses here, we have to have people come and take care of them when we go on. We have farm sitters here. But I also have a dear friend, lives just down the road, 3 minutes away, and she drives past every day just to make sure the horses are okay. So we're surrounded with very good people, and I have help.
That's also something I learned. You can have anything you want in life, but don't assume to have it all at once, and don't assume you will make it there alone. Like, you need support, you need help. Yeah.
And that was hard for me.
What?
I had a lady say to me years ago, she says, if you don't start to ask for help, you'll be finished at 50. And I was 40. And I said, but we don't ask for help. We do it ourselves. Dad always said, there's nothing can be done you can't do on your own. And she says, if you don't ask for help, if you don't start to accept help, you're going to be worn out. And I said, well, how do I do that? She goes, you won't have to ask. She said, but when people offer, you need to let them. And so we started to do that. There's lovely girls who travel to shows, actually come over to Australia every now and then on their own dollar just to come and be with us, and they run the booth with us and they help clean stables and that kind of thing. And so we do need help. And I know that to take to the level that I want to take it to, we do need help. I don't need help with the horses and that kind of stuff. That's something that's very personal with me. Everybody wants to help me with the horses in the hopes that I would teach them to train, but the relationship I have with them is very personal. I don't even like anyone else touching my horses because I don't want to break that connection between me and them. My wife does. My wife catches them and washes them with me and that sort of stuff, but her and I are like this. But I do need to have help, and I think your little saying is perfect, absolutely. And you can't do it alone. It's way too hard to do it all by yourself.
That was amazing, Corian, when you already had the headset on. It was like, hey, I'm just going into trailer, catching my horse, coming back out. So you were really doing everything by yourself. Is this stressful for you, or is it really like fine because you're already starting kind of the show because you catch your horse, you have the connection?
Yeah, and anything with my wife Em was yelling at me, get someone else to help, let someone else do that, and that's something that when we're home, Emily does all the job behind the computer, and she does an incredible job, and she feeds 2 of the beautiful horses. She feeds Old Nugget and Vamp, and then I do everything else outside. So it is, I suppose I do need to have to be able to delegate a little bit more. And I did have a good friend there, but they were working the booth. Em was over at the booth setting that up, and she does a lot of physical work and that there, just making sure the booth's running. So I suppose sometimes I was just trying to get it done because I knew where everything was, because if you ask for help, then you don't have everything that you need. And I do need to let go a little bit more though, but I certainly don't, anything to do with the horses, it has to be my job. People will say, can I wash them after you finish with them? I go, that's my job, washing them and taking care of them, even cleaning their stalls. I have people in America come up and go, oh, I thought you were more famous than that. You don't have people helping you with that stuff. And I go, I'm a horseman. I'm not an actor. I'm not a rock star. I'm not a movie star. I'm a horseman. If I'm not taking care of them, if I'm not filling their water bucket and putting their hay in, and sometimes I will have help. I have a young lad that I'll take the horses out to do a clinic, and when I come back, the waters are full and the stables are clean. But boy, I tell him exactly how he needs to treat them, and I tell him not to put his hands on them, and I'm very protective. They are my children, and I'm
Mm.
probably a little bit over the top of how they need to be looked after. I could make more money if I did a show and then charge $5 for people to pat them. Everybody wants to swamp my horses and cuddle on them, but I go and I put them away and I look after them, and I bit of a bodyguard for them, because the things that I
Mm.
ask them to do is above and beyond what a horse should do. I need to look after their mental, emotional, and physical, and that's what a horseman is to me. Is not just what I do in the arena, but all the other stuff, and that's what I love. I love washing them just as much as I love performing with them.
This is what you can really feel watching you working with the horses. It's not only a connection like in front of everybody when you're in the arena. It's really anytime, anywhere you just, I don't know, walk by. So this is really something a lot of people can learn from, and I really appreciate you showing that the world, that it's not only here's my horse and now I show up what I can do, but really have the connection and then perform together as a team, as a partner, and not as an object. And this is really just amazing. So thank you so much for all your work.
It's been my pleasure. And I watch other people who have the help in that, and I'm jealous. Every time Emily touches my horses, I get jealous. And not jealous of them being with her, but the other way around. I just go there. That's my connection and my whole. But I let Emily do that because she needs that too. She loves horses just as much as I do. So I let her handle them more because she deserves that. They are her horses as well, of course. But yeah, they mean that much to me. I only have the one daughter from the first marriage, and she is my everything. But then my horses are her younger brothers and sisters. That's for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Mm.
I don't want to take too much of your time, and I already appreciate you having like these minutes for me and my audience. So two final questions. Um, and this might be a deep one or a quick one. Let's see. Are you happy?
Yeah, if I look back, like if you look at these things up on the wall here, if you were to show just the highlights of my life to little Guy McLean, little 10-year-old, if you were to show him photos of that, there's a photo from Snowy River with me with my 8-horse team. I'm riding a beautiful stallion with 6 of his kids and then the beautiful little L. And if you showed a photo of me and my darling wife, and you showed the photo up, there's a photo up there with my daughter and my wife and I riding together. My highlight reel is 100 times more than little Guy McLean ever dreamt he could do. I was the little kid with glasses that no one thought was going to be anything. I heard mum and dad say when I was a little kid, the other kids are going to be okay, but I wonder about little Guy. I wonder if I probably had ADHD when I was a kid. I was undiagnosed because no one would look at that, but I probably had all that. I'm different from anybody that I know. I am definitely a one of one. I'm an extreme extrovert, so I'm even though I go out in front of big crowds and I yearn for that, I think God uses me as a beacon to show other people what can be done, and then I retract away from it. Like I can't wait after I perform just to go and put my arms on my horses or just to be with my wife alone. But I'm driven to the audience because I feel like he talks through me. And before I go and I perform, I say, "Dear God, please have me do something or say something today that touches the lives of someone else, that allows them to be the very best versions of themselves." So at Snowy River, I am in my absolute sweet spot. I have a smile that you can tie at the back. But then when we come home and you think of, man, if I don't have jobs coming up and that I can't take care of the horses, I have stress as everybody else has. But my life is a life, as my mum says, Sky, you chase your bliss. And I do. I chase my bliss every day. When other people say they're living the dream, someone else's dream, I'm living Guy McLean's dream. I've reached every mountain that I couldn't even see from the clouds before, but now I have more mountains, and I have big dreams. And they say that if you don't have dreams that scare you, they're not big enough. Well, I have dreams that scare me, but if you told little 10-year-old Guy that he'd be where he is doing what he's doing now, he would be blown away. I was such a shy little introverted kid. I'm extremely happy. I've got every reason to be. And everyone says to me, "You're incredibly blessed." And I go, "I am blessed." But the reason I am blessed is because I believe I am. Because if I was to layer out all the troubles that I have and the negatives that I could look at if I chose to, my life is not easy, but the goods far outweigh the bad, and I'm a very blessed man. I have a beautiful wife, an incredible team of horses, a daughter that I'm so incredibly proud of. I'm a very happy man, and I just need to remember um, just how blessed I am to have the things that I never even thought I could have. It's just once you get to the top of the mountain, if you're a mountain climber, you're always looking to the next one. But every now and then I look around, and these behind me here is 4 of the 5 trophies that my horses have won for being the most famous Australian stock horses in the industry for that year. And so things like that as a kid, they were beyond my dreams. So I'm a very blessed, very happy man.
Okay, well, I'm so happy to hear that, because it's hardly that you hear that answer. Most of the time it's like, yeah, I don't know, I have so many more dreams, and I haven't made it anywhere yet. And you're just like, no, I really feel happy, like within my position, within myself, and what I did and what I'm doing. So that is amazing. So last but not least, is there any question you would like to answer that nobody has ever asked you in an interview?
I have a lot of, and you've been kind enough to ask me this, and a lot of people have asked me, is there anything that you want to talk about? And I say, no, I love the fact that the interview I have with you will be like no other interview I've ever done before. Your questions are different from the other ones that I've answered, and I never want to go in and just have generic answers. So no, I'm really happy with how this interview's gone. I've enjoyed my time with you, and I want you to know that I really push to the positive stuff, but I've had some really negative things in my life. Negativity comes to me very heavily. If I have 1,000 people tell me that they love me, I that falls off my back. And if someone says I was cruel to a horse, or I'm bad because I wear a spur, or they confuse me with someone that was bad on a horse, that really gets at me. So I struggle with that. But because I love positivity, I find that having that negative mindset makes me reach for that more. Someone who never has any issues, someone who's everything seems to go easy for them, I don't think they push to the light. Because I've had a fair bit of darkness in my life, I'm always looking for the light. I'm always looking for the clean part of the sheet. I see some people that there'll be a white sheet on the hanging on the clothesline. Over here in Australia, we wash our clothes and we put them up on the clothesline. So you have a white sheet, and if I saw a white sheet with a couple of dots on it, I wouldn't see that. I would just see the white sheet as a whole. And then I know of people who would say, "Oh, that's dirty," because they could see a dot in the corner. I'm not looking for the dirt in this world. I'm looking for the overall cleanness, and just how blessed we are to be able to do what we love. But yeah, we definitely have dark moments, but I choose to look for the light.
And with this, I want to thank you so much. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your openness. It was a real pleasure and a real gift for me. So thank you so much.
Been my pleasure. Please tell your friends we'd love to see them in Australia, or want to share this beautiful country with the world. So thank you so much for doing that with us.